Hey everybody, welcome to another edition of NoDQ&A video here on NoDQ.com. I am the owner of NoDQ Aaron Rift, here to answer your questions about the world of wrestling. So here we go. Do you think that the statement by Chris Jericho on Twitter about never wrestling for WWE again is true? Or is Jericho just throwing a curveball, as there's been so much speculation about his return? Basically, what this question about is the Twitter message that Chris Jericho posted a few days ago where he said that he is never going to wrestle for WWE again, and he has some news about dancing, and then that was the end of the tweet. So what does this mean? A lot of people freaked out about it. They're like, this can't be true. Is Jericho really leaving? My take on it is that he's just working the fans. He's just probably fed up with people constantly asking him, when are you returning to WWE, blah, 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 blah. And I think he just posted that just to, get a rise out of people. Never say never. I think Jericho just wants a break, and, he's enjoying his time off right now. And when the time comes for him to return, he'll be back. And that's part him, that's part WWE, just whenever the time is right. That's all it comes down to. But I do think he'll be back at some point. I just think that, like I said, he's messing with people right now. What do you think is the future for Drew McIntyre? I'd like to see him back on SmackDown to get some TV time, and think that if they aren't going to push Sheamus into the title picture, they should form a tag team with McIntyre and Sheamus. I have gotten so many questions about McIntyre, what's going on with him. As everybody knows, that whole deal went down between him and Tiffany, his ex-wife, I guess now. They had their big fight and falling out when both of them were working for the company, and Tiffany ended up getting released. And ever since that point, McIntyre has kind of fallen into limbo in WWE and barely making it on TV. And it's a combination of that whole thing with Tiffany, plus the fact that WWE started doing the Super Show, and I've mentioned this before, how some of those mid-card guys are in a really bad spot now. When you have Sheamus on Raw and Randy Orton on Raw, and you mentioned Sheamus and McIntyre, maybe that would be a good idea to put McIntyre back on SmackDown. Or is he on? I don't even know which brand he's on right now. That's how bad it is with him. I would like to see him get another shot, a renewed push or whatever. I definitely think he has a lot of potential, but the longer he's off TV, the worse it's going to be for him in terms of getting another shot. So we'll have to see. Do you think we'll see any of the following people return to WWE in a full-time role? Mr. Kennedy / Anderson, MVP, Angle, Carlito, Batista, Bobby Lashley, Jeff Hardy. Of all those guys, I think the most likely to return full-time may be MVP. I mean, he left because he was frustrated with the direction of the product and his character, but, things could always work out again between him and WWE. They could come to a new deal, and MVP could be back. I could see that happening. Maybe Bobby Lashley, if the MMA thing doesn't work out. He's still trying to make that work, so we'll have to wait and see. But of that list, those two guys, and like I said about Kurt Angle, highly unlikely he'll ever work a full-time schedule in WWE again. And as far as Mr. Anderson goes, it's a matter of, does WWE really want him back? They give him so many chances, and I mean, they gave Marty Jannetty a lot of chances, so maybe Kennedy will be back. You never know. Is there a period that Chris Jericho was the man or face of the company? Well, if you're talking about like him carrying the company like a Steve Austin or a John Cena, there was never really a point. I think at his best, Chris Jericho was always like the number 3 or number 4 guy in the company, and that's just the way it is. But he was always consistent, always consistently one of the best, and always a guy they could rely on for great matches and great promos, and just to be a very entertaining guy. But for whatever reason, they never made him the focal point of the company. I'm not really sure why, but that's just the way things ended up. But he was, sometimes you don't have to be the number 1 guy to be the number 1 guy. I mean, he was always at the top, from 1999 on. He was consistently one of the best. So perhaps that does make him the man. Hey Aaron, with the push Mason Ryan is getting, do you see him challenging Mark Henry for the title after they build him up? I think it's way too soon to put Mason Ryan in a main event type match with someone like Mark Henry. Mark Henry is a guy that needs to be in there with a good worker, a guy who can carry the match. And as we all know, Mason Ryan is still very inexperienced, very green, as they would say. So it's going to be at least another year or two, with Mason Ryan before he's able to get into a position where he can face Mark Henry and be able to have a decent match with him. I just watched the Shawn Michaels versus Bret Hart DVD. Oh, by the way, I've gotten asked about this DVD a lot. I have not seen it yet. I am waiting for it to be available on Netflix. I don't buy DVDs anymore. That's just how I am. So as soon as I'm able to watch that DVD, I will let you guys know what I think about it. I've heard very good things, but for now, that's just the situation. Back to the question. He was watching the DVD and was surprised to see Benoit in the background of Bret Hart's speech. Do you think WWE will start putting him in DVDs now? Okay, the thing with Benoit is they edit him out as much as possible, unless there's like no way they can edit him out. Like with the WCW DVD, when they had the Ric Flair returning to WCW, reforming the Horsemen, Flair's talking and Benoit's there right in the background the whole time. There's no way you can blur out his face. It would just look too weird. So if Benoit's prominent in the shot, like he's in the background and you can't really shoot a different camera angle or something, then WWE is just going to leave him in there. But in all other cases that they can edit him out, they're going to take him out. That's just the way it is. Was the double turn between Austin and Bret Hart at WrestleMania 13 planned, or did the fans basically turn Austin babyface? I think the plan before going into WrestleMania was to do the double turn. Obviously, when the feud first started, prior to Survivor Series, I do not think WWE had a plan to turn Austin face or Bret Hart heel. I just think as the feud progressed, Austin was getting cheered more and more. Bret Hart was getting booed more and more. And then they came up with this whole storyline where Bret kept getting screwed and Austin kept screwing with him over and over again. And that's just the way it played out. And the fans did get into Austin as the anti-establishment and kind of saw Bret Hart as the crybaby. That's just the way the storyline played out. And I'm not sure it was WWE's long-term intention to do that, but once it started happening, they just went with it. And it was one of the best periods in WWE history, in my opinion. What is your favorite anti-American gimmick of all time? I'm going to have to go back a long way. First of all, Iron Sheik. I love Iron Sheik. Russia #1, Iran #1, USA. Just one of my all-time favorite, anti-American characters, Iron Sheik. And I actually really liked the Fabulous Rougeau brothers with the miniature American flags and the all-American boys. And I thought that was really cool stuff back in the day. And, Yokozuna and the Un-Americans were kind of an interesting group. And Muhammad Hassan, who could forget that? So those would be my favorite ones right there. All right, that about does it for No DQ&A video today. Thank you very much for checking out the show. Please subscribe, youtube.com/NoDQ&AV. We'll see you later in the week for more episodes. And as a reminder, make sure you check out NoDQ.com for the latest Survivor Series news and notes. We'll have coverage this Sunday. I'm going to be actually tweeting throughout the show. So twitter.com/NoDQ, DOTCOM, NoDQ.com. Check that out, and we'll see you next time.